In this video, I want to show you an unconventional 6-step approach to editing inside of Lightroom Classic to take your images from this and completely shift the colors to this, but without using any local adjustments or even heavy HSL manipulation. Let's get into it. My name is Pi. I've been fortunate to create multiple successful companies in the photography space. I'm a photographer, but even more so, I would say I'm an educator and frameworks person. My specialty? Making complex subjects easy for you to master, right here on Adorama TV. Hello, my friends. My name is Pi. Welcome to Adorama TV. I want to get straight into this. You'll recognize this photograph from a recent tutorial. This is a photograph of Kiara, a direct flash shot, and we'll actually link up that tutorial in case you want to see how exactly we shot it. But I want to show you that this image, which is the raw file, and moving over to this, which is the final, not the final image, but the final color graded look, it was done using a method of editing that we refer to as dark mode editing. It's kind of an unconventional approach to editing, and it doesn't involve any HSL, well, not a lot of HSL manipulation and no local adjustments. So you can think of this as kind of like an exposure pull, like how we used to underexpose film and then bring it up in post to kind of get a different look to the color, right? It's very similar to that. So what we're gonna do is let's go ahead and create a virtual copy, which is gonna be this image. This is fully reset out. And I wanna show you kind of the conventional approach to editing, right? Conventionally, we would say, okay, for this image, I wanna pull the highlights down a little bit, bring the whites down a little bit, maybe go ahead and adjust the temperature. I'm gonna go somewhere a little bit cooler, maybe like right here, and add a little bit of clarity and tweak your blacks, whatever you wanna do. This is kind of the typical approach, right? What I'm gonna do instead is I'll create a virtual copy from here, and I'm gonna reset that out. The first step when it comes to dark mode editing is you're gonna actually lower the exposure dramatically. -3 to -2.5 is a good place to start. So let's go ahead and just drop it to -3 to start for this particular image, and then we'll kind of bring it up as needed. So that's step number one. Step number two is to actually bring back the tonality of the image using your highlights, shadows, blacks, and whites. So what we're gonna do, and you would need to have an image that actually has highlights and blacks and stuff so you can control each independently. What we're gonna do is bring highlights all the way up. We're gonna bring the white point up, and this is where we notice that, okay, we probably need to bring some of the exposure back a little bit. I'm gonna bring blacks all the way up, and then we're gonna bring shadows to a place that we kind of like, right? Immediately, what you tend to notice is that while the skin tone is roughly the same kind of brightness as the last image, notice how the color of the image is so dramatically different. Look at the skin tone. It's pretty darn close in terms of the overall brightness. If I wanted to bring up a little more, I could, right? But the color is shifted so dramatically. Now, what that allows us to do is I can now go to temperature. And so this is step 3. You're gonna actually go to temperature and manipulate from here to cool off the image. And from here, I'm gonna actually add a little bit more tint. So I'm gonna raise it and bring in a little more magenta. And I'll probably leave it right about here. But that's so interesting because now we've gotten a completely different look automatically from the image just through this methodology, right? But I'm gonna take this a bit further. So once I have my temperature roughly dialed in, what I'm actually gonna do is go to presence. Instead of increasing dehaze, for example, I'm actually gonna decrease. See, bringing dehaze up is going to increase contrast in image, right? And we often do that to kind of give it a little pop. But lowering dehaze actually removes and kind of reduces contrast in the image, almost adding an actual haze to the image. So again, kind of the opposite of what we typically do. Same thing with the highlights and the blacks. We're kind of going the opposite direction of what we would typically do, right? I'm also gonna raise clarity. That's kind of typical to what we might do. And from here, I'm actually gonna lower the contrast a little bit more, like maybe to -10. And again, this kind of brings out a little bit more of the shadows in the image, right? I can also add a little bit more of the whites in, kind of like fine tuning and adjusting, going to the point where I don't wanna go too far. I don't wanna go up here where like I start to blow out my whites. I'm gonna go right about there, like that +45. But notice how everything, every slider, except for maybe clarity, is really the opposite of what we typically might do, right? This is that sort of unconventional approach. Now with presence in, I'm gonna go to the tone curve. And here I'm gonna do something kind of typical. What I'm gonna do is add a matte finish. So I want the highlights to kind of clip right around maybe 220-ish. And I'm gonna bring up a nice little S curve, and I might bring the whites up just a little bit more I don't wanna kill too much of the highlight detail on the face. What's happening though in pulling that curve down, and make sure that you're selecting the point curve, by the way, is anything above this marker right here is going to a bright gray. And we're gonna do the same thing down here. Anything below this level is gonna go to a dark gray. So I'm gonna leave it at 10. I'm gonna bring some of the shadows back right about here-ish. And it gives it a nice sort of matte finish, kind of toning down the effect. If you want to play with that, you can adjust this up and down and kind of see where you'd like it to go in terms of the matte finish. I'm going to leave it right about 225 to kind of finish that. Okay, to bring back some of the mid-tone highlights, you can always hold down Shift at a point, hold down Shift and go up and down. It'll constrain the movement to just an up and down direction. And I kind of like this right here. It might even allow me to kind of bring in a little bit extra whites, but I'm going to leave it right there. Okay, now with that tone curve dialed in, that was step 5. We go to step 6, which is really any remaining HSL or color grading adjustments that we want to add in. So with the HSL, I like to start with hue, and I'll actually go to the eyedropper tool and I'll bring it over the skin, and I can actually choose, like, if I want to bring the orange tones kind of more towards the greens, I can do that. But here, I'm actually seeing a little bit too much green personally for the way that I like my skin tones in the image. So I'm actually going to pull the oranges more towards the red side, right? Not too much, maybe like to right about there. And then for the blues, I'm actually going to shift those maybe towards more of a magenta-ish, kind of getting a more rich tone. I'm going to go to saturation. I'm going to pump the blues up a little bit. I'm also going to decrease the saturation of the skin tone a little bit. And then luminance, I'm going to play with this a little bit too. I'm actually going to bring the blues up. So watch this. So with the blues, I'm kind of clicking here and bringing it up a little bit just to highlight her a little bit more in that center of the image. And I love this. Now, if we want any additional color grading, we can totally add that. What I might do is put a little bit of warmth into the highlights of the image. So going to like maybe 55 for hue, maybe 5 for saturation. And I'm just going to add a little bit as well into the midtones, kind of like getting a little bit of the skin tone back in the image. And then for shadows, we can play. We can go to more of a deep blue. We can go to more teal. Whatever you want to see more of, you can totally just kind of stylistically add a little bit more in. I'm going to bring that to like 10. So notice that most of this color shift actually occurred with that dark mode edit. As we brought the exposure down, bringing the highlights and everything up, it really warmed up all the tones, and that allowed us to bring the temperature down substantially for our image. In fact, you could even pull it further at here. Once you're at this place, you can go even deeper and lean more into the look. What I might do for this particular one is I'm actually going to bring the saturation up, bring vibrance down a little bit. And at this point, if I press I to turn off my information, all I got to do to get to my final image is just knock out these pipes in Photoshop, clean up the floor a little bit. And we have another tutorial on that we recently launched as well that you guys can check out. We showed how to do this very easily and quickly inside of Photoshop. But that's it. So hopefully this kind of gives you a different window, a different look into editing. This dark mode version of editing can kind of help you to underexpose and create a completely different look with your edits, your presets, whatever it might be, through dark mode editing, through dropping exposure and controlling all of your highlights and everything independently and bring them back. Okay, so looking at the before, here's the raw file, here's the more conventional edit, and here is the dark mode edit showing the entire shift in colors. Pretty cool, right? Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, I'd love to see whatever you guys think in the comments. I am always reading the comments, getting ideas from questions and things that you guys might have. Also, if you enjoy my approach to kind of A to Z education, be sure to check out SLR Lounge Premium as well. In the meantime, we have tons of great creators here on Adorama TV, so you guys can help me out. Tell Adorama I'm doing a good job by subscribing to the channel, liking the video, and I'll see you guys back here same time at same place next week. Peace.